Okay, here's another little handy tool to use when you have to, say on an ACT or SAT or even any type of time test situation, or when you get into engineering or business situation where you need to find some information quickly. So, the discriminant. The discriminant is this part of the quadratic. Not the square root, just everything underneath the square root, and not the 2a. So, the discriminant is everything underneath the quadratic. So, the b squared minus 4 times ac, and this is what we know, that if that discriminant is equal to 0, you're going to have one rational root with a multiplicity of probably 2. There could be a chance of 4 or 6, depending on if this is an x squared or an x to the 6th or something like that. And on the previous video, we did have that. It ended up being 0, and we had 2 plus or minus over 2, and that ended up being 1. Well, 1 with a multiplicity of 2. All right? So, the big idea is when the discriminant is equal to 0, when underneath the radical sign is equal to 0, there's going to be one rational root, but you'll need to remember there will probably be a multiplicity of 2. When the discriminant is greater than 0, when this is a positive number under here, you could have, you're going to have 2 real roots. And the reason the real is important is that, well, you could have, let's say, you could have like 9 plus or minus the square root of 64, which is 8, all over 2. Well, your x then equals 9 plus 8 over 2. But it also means that it equals 9 subtract 8, which is 1 over 2. But if what's underneath there is positive, but it's not a perfect square, say this, then you have a radical or an irrational number. So remember, when the discriminant is a positive number, the actual roots, the x values, could have irrational numbers in them. And then finally, when the discriminant, when underneath here is a negative sign, you're going to have 2 complex roots, which means you're going to have to pull an I out of there. So let's say we ended up with 2 plus or minus negative 13i all over, I'll just leave that 2. Well, we're going to rewrite that, I mean negative 13. I'm going to have to pull the I out. Sorry about that. Negative 13. Well, I'm going to rewrite this negative 13 as negative 1 times 13. And then the square root of negative 1 is I. So you end up with x is equal to 2 plus I root 13 over 2, and x is equal to 2 subtract I root 13 over 2. But the key thing to know, when the good test questions, by the way, when the discriminant is equal to 0, how many roots will there be? When the discriminant is a positive number, how many and what types of roots will there be? When the discriminant is a negative number, how many and what types of roots will there be? All right, that's it for this one.